stress, burnout, depression are often bracketed together as the same thing, and they're not. Although they're closely related and can appear similar, and we tend to attribute one to the other. But there are subtle differences, and the differences lead us into different approaches to dealing with them. For example, stress tends to go away when you remove the source of the stress. If you go off on holiday, or the boss who's bullying you leaves, or something like that, the stress disappears and you feel okay again. Depression tends to resolve either through talking therapies or taking fresh air or through taking antidepressants, and the depression dissipates. It can be treated. Burnout has elements of stress and depression about it, but it's different, it's deeper. A burnout is an awful place to be. It is a spiritual crisis. It's a crisis of meaning and purpose. Who am I? Why am I here? What's going on? How do I get through this? It's a point in life that may take many months to arise, when everything around us seems to be collapsing, when we can barely function, when things don't seem to work anymore. It's a state of almost complete mental, physical, spiritual, emotional exhaustion. And the deep sense of crisis is not removed by removing the stressor or taking antidepressants or taking therapies to help relieve the depression. It lingers with us. Often that sense of exhaustion is exacerbated, and the hopelessness and the despair that comes with it, because we are exhausting ourselves trying to get everything back to normal again. The image can be that of somebody in a rowing boat who's been cast out to sea. They can see the harbour where everything was familiar and are rowing frantically trying to get back to it, but in so doing exhausting themselves because the tide is against you and taking you a different direction. And you're scared and anxious because you can see the horizon, but you cannot see the new harbour that might be there waiting for you. So you're caught up in this space, in this liminal space, and the exhaustion can be heightened because you're desperately trying to get back to what was. There's no going back. The spiritual crisis of burnout is when something deep inside ourselves, the heart and soul, is simply crying out, I can no longer live like this. I have to change. It can be something, for example, in a relationship that is no longer true for us, or an occupation that is no longer true for us, or our way of being in those things are no longer true for us. But it is the path of the heart longing to be authentic and be true to itself. So it may well be, and I've worked with people in burnout who have suddenly realised, for example, if they're working as a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, have realised, actually, I never really want to be this, and I don't want to do this anymore. I really want to go off and be an artist or an architect. Or I realised I'm living in a relationship and a family that is no longer true for me, and I have to find something or to change it. So we may, when you've gone through burnout, it may well be that you go back to work that you did before, but from a very different place in yourself. You go back, but you do not go back. But it may also be, and is usually the case in burnout, that your heart and soul is summoning you to a very different direction in life, to connect more deeply with who you are, with your place in the scheme of things, to follow a path that is more authentic for you and not driven by ego agendas of the need for success or power or to do what your parents wanted or whatever that might be. And as you pass through this distress, there are certain practices that we know work and help us. There are some don't. Being prescribed antidepressants, for example, can help to kind of ground you through the crisis, but it won't solve the problem. It's not going to take away the root cause. Nothing less than a root and branch reappraisal of our lives and where we're going is being called for. And that can be incredibly painful and distressing. We've identified here in the work at the Sacred Space Foundation over 70 different symptoms, if you like, of what goes on when you're experiencing burnout. Everything from an almost complete inability to function normally, like drive a car or go to work, through to bursting into tears for no apparent reason, through feelings of complete exhaustion, to physical symptoms of pain and distress and so forth. There are many there that kind of point to that direction, and the more you've got, the more it is the likely are you've got burnout, as opposed to simply stress. There are some things that work and help, and we know from our experience at Sacred Space Foundation that a lot of these begin with the letter R. They're the R words. It's literally retreat. Get out of the situation. Go to the doctor and ask for a sick note to go off sick. Find a place that enables you to feel safe, where you can explore what's going on. So you have a chance to re-energize, you have a chance to reflect, recuperate, remember, recollect, to literally recollect yourself. And through that process of reflection and recollection, to remember more deeply, what are you really here for, that you might have forgotten, that's taken in you a different direction. Now you're ready to go back into that direction, to find it again, or to find it for the first time. And so as you pass through that phase, that approach, drawing on the strength of people who can accompany you, who know about that, finding that safe space to explore it, to reflect and deepen it, that whole process can take you through what burnout is a call to transformation. It's a wake-up call that says you have to be different in the world. The old ways of being in the world are no longer suited for you, for who you are and for who you're becoming. And that's part of the hope of it, is that as you pass through it, one thing about burnout is it is temporary. It can't last forever. The body and mind, soul won't take it. Something has to give. So we do know that there's a hope in that, because it's a temporary thing. You move beyond it. And through that, move to that place of deeper authenticity, deeper truth, finding your truth, the path of the heart and soul in your life that takes you into a new level of being in the world of greater fulfillment and happiness and joy.